Hello, everybody. Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, here with our fourth ever live show, Riker. It's been a while since we put one of these out, but we started this with the new format, and excited to get a little long-winded, full update of Raptors news.
And it's weird because we're a little bit delayed from what we see in the comment section. And I have the video pulled up, so I'm seeing my face get played back. It's odd. But Ben, these live ones are fun. We're going to get into debating, I guess, what goes into the comment section. But we have a couple of things to break down first. Most notably that, once again, Masai Ujiri's name is out there in the rumor mill. He's getting shopped hard by the Washington Wizards. Are the Raptors in fear of losing the guy that is really credited for sculpting this franchise of winning over the past couple of years, Ben?
Yeah, it's really tough news, and honestly, this is something we've brought up in the past because Masai Ujiri has been put into rumors on a consistent basis, whether it's the Knicks, the Wizards in the past years. Everyone wants Masai Ujiri to come in and man their front office, especially with what he did to turn around this Raptors franchise and inevitably win us a championship. And the Wizards, they're back in the rumor mill. They're a team that's obviously, I think, worst in the league right now. They have a couple of stars. They have a couple of guys that they can sort of maybe piece together, work things around. But Masai Ujiri, I don't know if it's necessarily the situation he'd want to go to. People always bring up the point that it's very close to the U.S. Capitol and the fact that he can maybe have more influence in politics, especially with the Giants of Africa stuff. And I believe his wife might be from Washington. I think that's the case. That might be fake news, though. So do you see this as actually happening, Riker? Because this has a lot of Raptors fans worried right now. It's had us worried in the past. It's never actually come to fruition, but Masai Ujiri is a free agent at the end of this year, and we really haven't heard much about his contract being updated or anything really happening around there.
You know, he took on the Toronto Raptors. That's the thing, Ben. And the Raptors have been an historically bad franchise. So I think it makes sense as a GM that's done everything that you possibly can. You bring a championship to a city that seemed destined to never win. Or president, do you want to go and take the mantle of a place that is absolutely desperate right now with everything that's going on in Washington? Maybe so. Maybe that's the next challenge. Interesting. I was thinking, what would because we're calling him a free agent. It is pretty funny to consider a president or a GM a free agent in a sports league. Typically that's for the players. I just read what his bidding would be at. Now this is a little bit it's from December 2020, so not that old. What his starting price would be in a bidding war, Ben. I see it. Do you know what it is?
No, I have no idea.
Yeah, take a guess.
I'd put it at $100 million because that guy gets you championships.
His per year.
Per year? 20 million? 25 million?
12. That's supposedly
that's
from what I'm reading. Sportsnet. Yeah. President. So it's an interesting one. I don't know what people are thinking about it. There's been a lot of strife towards Masai because of the start of the season. We felt like there was a big missed opportunity. This is a good segue, actually. We felt like there was a big missed opportunity to not get involved with that Harden to the Nets trade when Jared Allen was put out there for Dante Exum. We have way better, more valuable pieces than Dante Exum and could have got back a formidable piece that would have really improved the Raptors front court situation. You know, people are calling for Norm to maybe be moved, Kyle to maybe be moved, anything to happen, right? They're just begging Masai to do something to improve this roster. So I don't even know if people are really high on Masai Ujiri right now, to be honest.
Well, we're live, and we've been recommended that when we go live, we gotta dive more into the chat because you and I can sort of rant with each other all day. But let us know in the chat right now if you guys think Masai Ujiri should, if you're high on Masai Ujiri, because obviously I hold him as the opinion as the best GM in the NBA, especially with what he's done when you look at his track record with the Raptors in terms of drafting and trades and all that. Are you high on him right now, even though he's missed out on some moves and lost a few free agents over the past year? Or, you know, are you cool with him leaving, maybe get Bobby Webster into the mix as GM? But the chat, people are calling for Bradley Beal. That's something I see a lot. Trade for Drummond. We put him in the thumbnail because we've seen a lot of DMs talking lately about Andre Drummond coming here. We're going to go with, we have a couple of news topics we're starting with, then we're just going to steal stuff straight from the chat. But yeah, I don't know, because it's an interesting situation there. We got stuff coming in. Trust in Masai. we need some pylons that don't shoot threes. That's certainly agreed. Trade Fred for Bradley Beal. We got flamed for making a Bradley Beal trade video, but once again, we're communicating with you guys. Everyone's looking for Bradley Beal trades, but it's definitely a tough situation, because this is the question I want to throw to you, Ryker. What would be a bigger loss? The Toronto Raptors losing Kyle Lowry this offseason, or losing Masai Ujiri?
Off season?
Yeah.
So getting no value back for Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, a free agent walk.
And he just doesn't. I would still assume it'd be Masai Ujiri. It's been maybe proven so far, or not proven. It's been maybe indicated this season on a less strong team than the Toronto Raptors are used to, that Kyle Lowry's effectiveness and his ability to contribute to wins is less important. And I would only imagine that as he ages, that'll become more so the case. So I wouldn't hate to see him in a trade to get a couple of pieces back, maybe a couple of picks. You're higher on his trade value than I am right now, but I wouldn't even hate to see him necessarily get moved before the deadline. And that's a pretty hot take in Raptors land right now. But I think Masai Ujiri, he's always been playing that sort of 3D chess, 10 moves ahead. We haven't seen anything yet this season. It's leading us all to believe that there's something big that's cooking, Ben.
Something big that's cooking, and everyone in Raptors land wants something big to be cooking. We see a lot of people, they're mad about the Raptors being in mid-place, but I disagree with your point on the Raptors should move Kyle Lowry, that I'd be comfortable with it. I think that would be something, especially if we don't get a lot back, then that would be something that I think could really be a bad look on the franchise, and something that doesn't work basketball-wise. So that's not a move I'm down with. That's a debate that I'm sure if we throw it out to the chat, people will be fired up about, but Danny's out here saying don't move Kyle. We got Masai to the Knicks. No, that would be depressing. Van Vliet is the future. That is very true, especially with his 54 points that he dropped the other night. But I don't know. The Masai Ujiri thing, I made it of the point, we made it a couple of years ago when Kawhi Leonard was here, that a bigger free agent loss would be Masai Ujiri leaving the franchise than Kawhi Leonard. I don't know if that necessarily aged perfectly well,
that aged
but
poorly.
Still, I think Masai
so
Ujiri.
Poorly.
Honestly, I don't think it's a bad look, or that bad of a take, because look at where the Toronto Raptors were before Masai Ujiri was here. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing. Bradley Beal for Ben Rodgers. I think it's a fair trade. Would you make that trade as the Raptors Digest? Get Bradley Beal in here, and I'll start shooting guard for the Wizards.
This is the thing. People don't know how silky your moves are, Ben. They've yet to see. Maybe they've seen your mixtape. I don't think that they have. You got a nice dribble package, but are you going to be putting up 42 points per game like Bradley Beal? I don't know at your height.
I averaged a 30 piece in high school, bro. I've had a few 50, 60 point games.
In B. You weren't even in the A League.
Yo, we were nice, bro. Stop hating.
Well, you beat me, so I'll give you that much. And Ben, before we really get off the rails and just start going everywhere with Raptors chat, we do want to talk about, I've been seeing reports, somebody just Instagram DM'd us as well. I'm going to see if I can pull it up really
Flexing
quickly.
those DMs, bro.
Philip, just FILIP. Trending NBA. There's even reports now that, see, I don't believe in this messaging at all. I think that this is very much just making fake news, but it seems to be common knowledge that the Cleveland Cavaliers will be parting ways one way or another with Andre Drummond, whether it's via buyout, which makes no sense to me, or just trading him before the deadline. This more recent report is saying that they might even want to hold on to Andre Drummond, and therefore Jared Allen would be the person that they're looking to move at the deadline. I don't think that that's the case. I've read multiple times that Jared Allen is the guy that they want to move forward with, younger to fit with that young core, maybe a little bit more mobile, although, as you're going to point out, Andre Drummond's actually been looking pretty nice this season. So I still am in the camp that Drummond will probably get moved. The point that he's going to go to the Nets just makes me depressed to think about. Ben, is there a possibility that the Raptors can get their hands in the cookie jar and land this guy to really significantly improve the front court?
Well, The thing about Andre Drummond is this guy was traded for a bag of milk last season. He was traded for overpriced Brandon Knight and John Henson, I think, who didn't even get minutes on that atrocious Pistons team, and they were just sort of salary filler. They dumped him for absolutely nothing. So that's his trade value was really low, and at this point, it's like you don't know what his value is, because certainly he's played a lot better. I've heard people say he's in contention for an all-star position, which is crazy to think about when you consider his value last season, but he's a player that he scores in the lane, he puts up tremendous rebounding stats. You've been notorious for calling him out as the most empty stat guy of all time, so that's been like the point that I think that's a sentiment a lot of people have had for him, but this season he looks a little bit more mobile, his defense looks stronger, and the thing that I think really separates himself from your average sort of lumbering big man that can't shoot and any of that is his passing ability. If you sort of watch the highlights, especially this season, he's making these full court Kevin Love-esque passes where he used to throw those full court lobs to LeBron. Obviously he's throwing it to now like Isaac Okoro and stuff, so not nearly as flashy or makes the highlight reels, but these great plays that I could really see him sort of manning the back of our defense and throwing it up, and Siakam, Norman Powell, these guys running the same way Kyle Lowry throws those balls ahead. So I don't know. I think he would be a nice fit for us. What would I be willing to give up? That's sort of the big question. But if it means the Toronto Raptors are obviously coming back and trying to be contenders in the Eastern Conference, if it means he just gets bought out and walks on to the Nets or one of these other top tier teams, then maybe you're more willing to make a move or something like that to keep that competition, because I think a roster of, and for people that don't know, it was rumored that if he does get bought out by the Cavaliers, which is a real option, he would join that Brooklyn Nets team with Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and Kevin Durant. So that would be tough.
Probably a minimum.
Yeah,
which would kill me.
Yeah, so that would be very tough. So maybe even just make a move. What would you be willing to give up in a Drummond trade, Riker? Because you're one of the guys that are more low on him than probably anyone on that follows basketball.
Yeah, I'm willing to give up Norman Powell. Norman Powell plus. That's the only person that you're not gonna move Fred VanVleet. You're not gonna move Pascal Siakam. You're not gonna move OG. You'd be comfortable probably to move Norman Powell, or not Norman Powell. Obviously Norman Powell is who I said. Kyle Lowry, but that obviously makes no sense for Cleveland. You could even make the argument that Norman Powell might not make sense for Cleveland. But again, this guy's only in his 8th season in the NBA. He averages 18 and 15 rebounds. We have no offensive rebounders on the Toronto Raptors. This guy's getting, I think, 4 or 5 a game. So even just from being able to grab boards at a better rate than anybody currently can on the Raptors, and like you said, throw those outlet passes, I'd be willing to move a couple of core pieces, except for the big three, Pascal, Freddie, and OG. And I don't think anybody could make an argument on why you'd move one of those guys for Drummond.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't even think about trading Norman Powell for Andre Drummond, even though I'm higher on him than you. I'm in the boat of Norman Powell's a key piece to this team, especially going forward when Lowry gets moved to the bench. I think he could be a legitimate starting 2 in this league, and we've seen ever since his slow start, he's been a 20-point per game scorer for us again. I think that paired with his defense, his 3-point shooting is more valuable than a guy that is sort of a dinosaur in today's NBA. So I wouldn't make that move, even though they're both free agents of them this year. I would not trade Kyle Lowry to the Cleveland Cavaliers, even if we were getting back Sexton, Garland, Drummond, and Okoro. Even though, obviously, the Raptors will win that trade, just out of respect for Kyle. I just would not want to send him to a dumpster fire that is the Cleveland Cavaliers, even though they have been better. But if you're moving him out of respect, you just got to move him to a better franchise. But maybe that's a hot take. Maybe that's just blind loyalty. But I don't know. It's tough to make the money work with Drummond's big contract, and would I be willing to give up a Terrence Davis? Yes, paired with some bench pieces that aren't integral to the team. But I'd be less willing to give up one of our top 7 guys if you don't include Aaron Baines in the top 7, because I give him up for Drummond in a heartbeat.
Well, now we're just getting unrealistic. I would assume everybody in the comment section is a Raptors stan, obviously. But this guy, again, he's an 18 and 15 guy. He is probably one of the better centers in the league, although I do preach that he's an empty stat getter. He doesn't contribute to wins, but Cleveland Cavaliers, they're ahead of the Raptors. They're actually in the playoff picture to date, I suspect that the Raptors are going to take over them unless we drop the game to the Nets and then shake our confidence and go back into another rut. So we're not going to fall into that train of thought there, Ben. But to me, somebody pointed out, Rizwan said Drummond can only come in a 3-team trade. I think something like that might even make sense, like to 1-for-1 Drummond with Norman Powell plus. Maybe that's not the move. But just like we were discussing the Bradley Beal trade, where Philadelphia gets Bradley Beal and we get a slew of young players from Philadelphia, and then the Wizards just get a ton of picks and Ben Simmons. Nobody was really in support of that, but you could understand the logic of why 3 teams would be willing to make some like a trade like that. Similar in this vein, again, of all the places that I would see him move to, I just would not want him to go to the Nets for nothing. This guy is making $22 million this year. To go and get paid out and accept the minimum in his 8th year, that's too much.
Yeah, that would be a big yikes to watch, a tough pill to swallow, because, I don't know, that would make them a very strong team. He would anchor their defense. He'd be what DeAndre Jordan, in theory, should have been for that team, or what they thought he might be, but I don't know, that's a tough look, and I want to hear you guys, other players that you want us to talk about in this live stream, so say that now, because I think we're a few seconds behind before I make my last Drummond point. But the one reason I think there's never really ever going to be a chance Drummond will come to the Raptors is, you remember that open gym episode, I think it was like 5 years ago now at this point, where Masai comes up to Jonas and tells him, yo, you're 1,000. You're way better than this Drummond guy. Don't be stressing. We'll never trade you straight up for Jonas. And just completely slandered on Andre Drummond when he was making all-star teams. That went viral. That was a big meme. So, I don't know. I just think if he got traded here, people will show him that, and then he'll just be disgruntled and want to demand a trade once again.
Well, we'll see what happens. But we have some coming in. The most obvious, it started with Rick. And who else is putting it out there? Lumpy Rex 007, Rio McLovin, a ton of people. Everybody's saying Levine. We've got how many Instagram DMs saying Zach Levine? And there's the classic meme being floated out there with kind of the shoddy trailer park home and a Bugatti under the lean-to. And they're saying that's Zach Levine on the Bulls. And it kind of makes sense. The more surprising thing that I heard, just a quick tangent, is that apparently the Bulls aren't going to match or offer anything to Lauri Markkanen when his free agency comes up, which to me, he's the best player on their team, if not the very close. Right? An international power forward that can shoot the 3 and is actually a high-level player. I'd be so down for that. But to me, again, same story with the Bradley Beal trade. What can the Raptors offer for Levine that would make the Bulls want to do that deal? I'd put it up to everybody into the comment section. I don't see Levine ever happening.
Yeah, we made a video breaking this down a couple weeks ago, but or maybe a week ago. I'm not sure how long. Time's flying right now, but there was rumored or stuff, or people were saying, it's not rumors when it's just DMs, but Raptors, Reddit, all these sorts of stuff. Fred VanVleet to Chicago for Levine. Obviously, we'd have to wait for Fred to be eligible to be traded. Would you have any interest in that right there, Ryker?
Levine and Fred VanVleet, 1-for-1?
Yeah. That's a tough one.
Yeah, you'd have to say yes. You'd have to almost say yes. Yes. Because we want Fred VanVleet to be the point guard of the future. But how long are we going to have to keep Kyle Lowry? Because I've said it time and time again this season, having 2 6-foot backcourt players makes no sense. We're better off having Fred VanVleet and Norman Powell play in the starting lineup. So if we're keeping Fred VanVleet and Kyle Lowry for more than this season, when are you ever going to unlock Fred's potential as a 1? He's not getting guarded by shooting guards all game long and having to make crazy layups in the lane.
I think
so. Just for virtue of that alone,
I see what you're saying. Like, obviously, we've been waiting for Fred VanVleet to become that starting point guard ever since he had that explosion in the NBA Finals. But I think we're close to the point where Kyle Lowry's going to be at least coming off the bench, be willing to take that more mentorship role, or even move on, because people are rumored the Sixers and stuff. We could probably talk about that later. I want to see him stay. Got Lowry in the back here. But Fred VanVleet, I see what you're saying, because the stat line, Zach Levine's a flashier player, a bigger name, all that sort of stuff. But I think Fred's defense, I think his just ability to do the intangible things, make winning plays, big moves down the stretch, I don't think it would be a smart move for the Toronto Raptors, even if it's Fred VanVleet is less sexy to your average NBA fan. I think all of the things that he sort of aggregates to, he's not going to score. He doesn't have the height. He doesn't have the athleticism of a Levine, but the way he sort of picks in, he gets those steals, and he's grown into that Lowry-esque player where his impact is being felt in other ways than just the box score and all these things. So I don't think I do it. I don't think I do that move straight up. People are saying Levine for Norm and Davis plus picks. Would you be more interested in a trade like that, Riker?
Yeah, the Bulls wouldn't be interested in a trade like that, though. So that we don't even really need to entertain that one. And the other one that I'm seeing a lot too, though, if we just switch to a different player altogether. Well, one, Brendan Storr. You think Kawhi would come back possibly? That wouldn't even be a trade. You just hope that he would want to come back to Toronto after. Come back. There were businesses were gonna front your expenses. You were gonna get restaurants for free. Some random guy was gonna pay your apartment or your condo. Just all the benefits of living in Canada as the absolute basketball god. But the one that I'm seeing a little bit is Hassan Whiteside, and I wanted to shout out somebody's name. Mike Watto. He's saying Hassan Whiteside, NV, a bunch of digits, Lougheed MS.
Say
Whiteside.
all those digits, bro.
I'm not saying any of those digits, not a single one. DeRozan returns, I like that one too, but we've broke that down in a previous. But Hassan Whiteside and to a lesser extent, Marvin Bagley III. But Ben, what's the issue with those centers? It's very obvious. I'll let you take it away. If you don't say it right away, I'm going to jump in and cut you off and say what it is.
Well, it's something clear, so I'm going to let you take it away with those
pick and roll defense is the reason we're not trading for Hassan Whiteside. I'm just going to say that. I'm going to leave it there. If you've never watched Hassan Whiteside play, just watch one single game. We're never going to make that trade for him because he's absolutely I want to say something that's probably not appropriate for the podcast, so I'll refrain from it. Useless. Blank useless.
Yeah. No, it's I think Bagley to a lesser extent, but certainly Whiteside, his mobility and stuff. He's a great shot blocker, so he kind of gets this label as, oh, what a defender. He gets 4 blocks a game or something when he plays 30 minutes. And, that's a very surface level argument to look at him as a good defender. You brought it up. He just isn't engaged, even if he's athletic enough, because you look at a guy like Jonas Valanciunas, and the reason we had to move him was his pick and roll defense, but Jonas at least tried. He just wasn't mobile enough. Whiteside, in theory, could be mobile enough, could be energetic, because he's got that sort of thin frame that's super athletic, but just doesn't have the engagedness, doesn't have that sort of drive to get up out on shooters, just plays drop coverage, and it's just a complete mess whenever he's out there. So Whiteside, I completely agree with you. Bagley, I don't know if it's necessarily the same issues. Obviously, his defense is a little bit shoddy. I think a part of that is due to he's just consistently injured. He hasn't had time to really integrate himself into a team for a consistent amount of time. Obviously, these young big men, they take a lot of training, a lot of coaching, a lot of all that sort of stuff to become solid NBA defenders. We saw it with Jonas to the point where he wasn't playable in fourth quarters for his first 3-4 seasons. And Bagley, he's really only had 1 season under his belt, it feels like, due to all of his injuries. So that's one thing. Bagley, so you're out on the Bagley train, because people are divided on that one as well.
I'm not out on the Bagley train. The issue is it's different completely than Hassan Whiteside. It's that he's not done anything to really demonstrate that you'd be willing to trade. He's just potential only type of trade. But the one that I do want to switch to, actually, before I even say that, Ben, there's 259 people now to my tally that are watching this. I don't know if you're seeing a different number. Only 53 likes. Everybody's commenting. Like the video. Like it if you have a trade proposal, if you think that something will happen. We're trying to get into the algorithm. It's been suggested that we preach the likes, so get into the like section if you haven't already. But Mr. Bro, he says Christian Wood, and then I believe Adam Ellis says nobody would move Christian Wood. Toby_A said he'd be great, but obviously it's not going to get moved. This is another reason for anybody who's just joining, who didn't get the very opening of our podcast talking about Masai Ujiri potentially getting big offers from the Washington Wizards in excess of $12-15 million per year. That might be enough to lure him away from Toronto. Our big argument is, well, do we really care? Do we really want him? Are we going to be that concerned if we lose Masai Ujiri in the free agency? And there's a lot of discontent. We would. But again, there's a lot of discontent because we missed out on getting Jared Allen. He was traded for Dante Exum, which is a joke. We missed out on, I can't remember. I thought there was another big one. And then the biggest one is Christian Wood, who we were super high on all offseason. And now he's near a 25 and 15 player on the Houston Rockets. That was Masai Ujiri's biggest stumble point. So kudos to people for mentioning that into the comment section there, Ben.
Yeah, it's that was sad. That was sad. You and I were on the Christian Wood train this whole offseason, this whole fall, just saying, yo, we should pay this guy. We should see what he could do. It'd be a nice potential piece, especially if you lose Gasol. Imagine that front court of Christian Wood and Ibaka. That would be a filthy squad to go after. So, unfortunately, that wasn't the case. That didn't end up going down, and we ended up with Aaron Baines and Alex Len, and now we're just down to Aaron Baines and maybe Chris Boucher if you call him a center. So it's an unfortunate situation for the Raptors in the front court. There's thousands of names that are being brought up now in the chat, Capella and stuff. I think the name that you brought up that we were talking about, we were hyped about the offseason was Montrezl Harrell as well, and he got paid pennies to go to the LA Lakers. So it's there's a lot of people that we sort of missed out on. And to sort of bring up your Masai Ujiri points again, because people are asking how much should we pay him in the comment section and stuff, or the live chat. How much would you? I'd be willing to give Masai Ujiri the full bag, even with these a couple stumbles. Would you? Are you in the same boat, even though you're less full faith in Masai these days?
See, I'm checking the Instagram DMs while you're chatting there, but the thing is, I don't know. I'm actually pretty interested. I've read once through the NBA collective bargaining agreement, and so that was an interesting read. I just wanted to get a little bit better understanding. This was towards the beginning of COVID and the force majeure clause and how players' salaries are affected when they're not playing. But through that whole thing, I didn't get any sort of additional understanding of how salaries work for president, GM, etc. We have a kind of a vague idea of salary caps and everything for the players, but I would assume that it's really fully on MLSE to set the price for their guy. And I don't know. I don't think that it affects your ability to pay players. Maybe it would affect your ability to go extra into the luxury tax if you're tying up a $10 extra million a year onto your president, rather than saying I'm willing to pay $10 extra million in luxury tax to go above and beyond and get myself a free agent. But would I be willing to pay Masai Ujiri to keep him around exclusively based on he 1-for-1 DeMar DeRozan for Kawhi Leonard? The answer is yes, Ben. I'd absolutely pay Masai Ujiri money to keep him around.
Yeah, and I'm in full agreement. I would give Masai Ujiri all the money he asked for, and then a little bit extra to ensure he doesn't dip for New York or the Wizards, when obviously the biannual reports of those teams dying to go after him. So it's the big stuff there, and it's not just the Masai Ujiri DeMar DeRozan trade, because arguably that might not be even the biggest finesse he's ever made in a Toronto Raptors front office position. What would you say is the bigger finesse? That one? Or the Gravis Vasquez to the Milwaukee Bucks for what ended up being Norman Powell and OG Anunoby? Two guys that are integral pieces to championship level team.
Yeah, you could say that too, Ben, but you could also say Jonas Valanciunas and DeLon Wright for Marc Gasol. Would the Raptors have won the championship with Jonas Valanciunas at the starting five?
You're forgetting the biggest part of that trade. Getting rid of the GoDaddy curse?
CJ Miles,
CJ's PJ's kicked out of there.
Is he even in the league anymore? I don't think he's rostered right now.
He's actually a rapper now. He's got some songs up on iTunes. I give him. He's a fun follow on Twitter. Definitely want to shout out CJ Miles on Twitter. But yeah, he's posting a few albums. So shout out CJ Miles, aspiring rap career after he got cut by the Wizards.
People are trashing on CJ Miles. Let us know what you think Masai's biggest fleece was. But Ben, we actually do have some breaking news. Should we play the segment? Do you actually have it, or did you not import that one?
Breaking news. Let's get it
Malachi.
going. Let's get it going. Raptors news update. Yeah. Do you want to take it away, Riker?
You take it away. You told me about it.
Okay, true. But Malachi Flynn, obviously the Toronto Raptors guy that everyone was hyped up about after his first 3 games in the preseason, unfortunately hasn't really got his footing with the team, even though he had some opportunities to really show what he could do on the court. Never really found his footing with the roster in terms of rotation spot. He's sent down to the G League now. He's going down to the G League bubble, which is honestly a part of the course when you're a Raptors rookie. We've seen guys like Siakam, like Fred VanVleet, like DeLon, Jakob, all those types of players, Bruno, everyone that sort of became something for this team and was drafted by us in the Masai Ujiri era. They went down to the G League.
You just put Bruno into that conversation.
Yo, we got to talk about Bruno after because people want that back. So it is what it is. And Bruno, no disrespect to Bruno, that guy got us the 905. He was the reason Masai was able to convince MLSC to put it there, and we've had the best crop of young talent because of that. So shout out Bruno. But Malachi's gone down there. Obviously, he's a guy that is a tremendous floor general. He's a solid defender for his size, and he can really stroke the three. I think this will be really good for him going forward.
Yeah, and what we just saw, I'm not even going to remember his name, on the New York Knicks request to get demoted to the G League so he could get more minutes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's Dennis Smith Jr.
Dennis Smith Jr. Mm-hmm. He has one of my favorite dribble moves. He was dribbling left wing perimeter with his right hand. Okay, so the ball was like exposed, but then he put it behind his back and spun in that same direction and then shot a three. And it was useless because the move doesn't do anything. The ball is shown to the defender the entire time. It's behind your back plus spin. The ball stays in front, closest to the 3-point line, but it's just a wild looking move. And then he hit the three. That was Dennis Smith Jr. But he's been a real dud since he's got drafted to the NBA. I think it's a fantastic
He was good his rookie year. It's ever since he went to the Knicks. He was good his rookie year. He was able to be traded for Porzingis. Yeah, he was solid for Dallas.
I think he came in with more potential, more excitement around him because of his athleticism, the way that he led his team in university. But my point being, to bring it back to the Toronto Raptors, I think that you already said it. It's young players need to get their confidence in this league. And you're not just immediately going to come out. We obviously way overhyped Malachi during the preseason games. He came out there. We said that this guy's looking like Steph Curry. He could be a starting NBA point guard right now on any other team. That was obviously a dramatic overreaction. We were just excited to see another guy that was in the same mold as Kyle and Fred. But you need to get your confidence up. And in playing 2 or 3 minutes per game in scrub minutes, you're of course going to turn into Malcolm. What was his name? He always came out. He always came out shooting threes.
Oh, Malcolm Miller.
Yep. You're going to turn into Malcolm Miller. So we want him to develop into rather Fred VanVleet. So I think it's a good opportunity to get him down to the G League.
Hey, don't disrespect NBA champion Malcolm Miller. I always thought he'd end up finding his way on the team. He had a nice stroke from the three. He was a pretty long, tall guy. Fortunate, never really got his run. Maybe in the future. But yeah, I think this will be really good for Malachi. Maybe, obviously this isn't the season for him. When he got drafted, obviously prior to the preseason hype of him up, but we would never hype someone up randomly out of nowhere, Riker. That's not our style. We're very objective to the patient Raptors fans, but I think this will be really good. It's a really unfortunate thing that the G League has to go down to a bubble. Another guy like Jalen Harris, I think, would benefit from being down there a lot more as well. So it's a positive, and with our two-way guy Utah, obviously being instead of our 14th or 15th player, he's now our 4th or 5th guy, it seems like, in terms of minutes played. So different guys got to go down to the G League, and I think it'll be a positive for Malachi. But yeah, it's pretty interesting, and yeah, let's see what the chat's saying. I think we've talked a lot about Malachi Flynn, Watanabe's Knights. Riker, people were asking about your hat earlier on in the pod, or in the live stream. When are you gonna start selling hats, bro? When are we getting that Raptors Digest merch?
We got 2 hats to flash. We got the Walmart hat. Wait, the Walmart hat. It's the off-brand Walmart hat. That goes with the vibe. It's the Walmart version of a Walmart hat. And we, of course, have the new fan favorite, Pylons Don't Shoot 7 threes. This one, credit to Aaron Baines. And we had his mom in the DMs, actually, Barbara Baines, shout out, reacting to our bet line. And unfortunately, our writer Josh, who does our parlays, he was one leg away, didn't get it, but definitely follow that on our Instagram if you don't already. But apparently Aaron Baines' mom, Barbara Baines, was big into their parlay, because when we didn't hit it, she DM'd us a sad face. We've verified that it is in fact her by cross-referencing her photos and her followers and everything. Pretty hilarious. But point being, this is my new favorite. Oh shoot. This is my new favorite hat, and but he's been playing well, so I haven't been able to wear it. If anybody wants a Pounds Don't Shoot 7-3s hat, let us know. We actually are getting onto the merch scene soon, so we can start taking pre-orders for something like that, Ben.
Yeah, we got some exciting stuff popping. We got the website. We usually plug it at the end of the podcast. We got a lot of people on here now, so definitely check out our articles on raptorsdigest.ca. Lots of cool stuff. Got a lot of new writers over there, so people want to check that stuff out. We want to get that quality content out to you guys. They're more focused, a little bit, in-depth writing and written formats. So good reads. But yeah, we're gonna get those hats cooking as well. People are asking Ryker. I saw Mo Bamba out here. Nah.
I'm just looking at them come through. Julius Randle, hilarious. Knicks love him now. Miles Turner would be obviously.
He's having a nice season.
Will he be an all-star?
If the Knicks are the 6th seed, if they get up into the playoff picture, I think he can be an all-star this season.
They need to get into the playoff picture, though. That's the key.
Yeah,
that's the key. There could be a lot of emerging first-time all-stars, and I saw a lot earlier in the chat function. People were saying, will there even be any all-stars for the Raptors this year?
No. Unless Fred VanVleet goes wild. I don't think Siakam's played well enough to do it. I don't think Lowry necessarily has the stats going for him or sort of the recognition. I think the sort of waning stats of Lowry, people are probably looking at him as off their ballots. They probably looked at last year as the last year unless we sort of start playing well again. But I think the only chance we have, especially with the narrative now around Fred VanVleet scoring 54 points, I think he's our only really real shot at getting an all-star. But again, with the Raptors, maybe we creep back into the playoff picture. We're only, I think, 2-3 games out of the 4th seed at this point. So maybe we get to that upper tier seed. They're going to have to give us one. But I think Fred's our only real shot at this point.
Yeah, but even him, he's not really the mold of somebody that they would want as an all-star. You want flashy plays, dribble moves, dunks, athleticism. Fred VanVleet, he averages, I don't have the stats up in front of me, but I would imagine that he's putting up between 6 and 8 assists per game, but none of them flashy. Like, he's not throwing lobs, he's not doing anything extraordinarily creative. He's just a solid player. And so I look to put him with guys, or put him alongside, for comparison, Trey Young, who's much more exciting player to watch. I'd pick Fred VanVleet over Trey Young. Maybe that's a super hot take, Ben. I don't know. But I would right now, if I could just have either for free, I'd still go with Fred VanVleet, but not in an all-star game.
Yeah, definitely not in an all-star game. You just need that name recognition. Even though coaches pick the bench and they're supposed to be more objective, and you see guys like Paul Millsap and even Lowry at times make it, Fred, I don't think, has that name recognition in general overall yet. So it's going to be tough for him. Maybe if Siakam bounces back, he'll get it just off the fact he was All-NBA second team last year, and maybe Lowry, if he continues. I'm not sure what his stat line is right now. It was really solid to start off the year. I think it died off a little bit, so I don't think they have the numbers really going for us. So that's the unfortunate thing. A couple people reacting to that Trey Young take. They're saying he's not very good, ruining the game of basketball. I'm pretty high on Trey Young. I kind of like that guy, even though he's not the greatest defender. I just love those guys.
What are your thoughts on that? That's every Instagram post that I see in my searches. Trey Young is ruining basketball. It's obviously an extreme hyperbole or an extreme extension of what Steve Nash said when he was frustrated that the Nets lost against Trey Young because he had a couple moves. It's maybe even his signature move. He gets around his defender, puts them on his back, then does a fantastic change of speed. When he feels that contact, then he goes up for a shot. He's getting that foul drawn a lot. It's very similar to what somebody would do, say, on a step back pump fake. You wait for them to go up and then you go into them. But it's even smarter because he has to have the skill to get completely around his defender to put them on his back, right? But what makes people frustrated is he's doing it in transition. He's doing it, bringing it across the half. I completely disagree that he's ruining basketball. Be a better defender. You guys are the most athletic people in the league. Trey Young maybe weighs 110 pounds soaking wet. He's not the fastest guy, right? He's pretty crafty, but he's not the most athletic. Stay in front of him, and then you won't get those calls, or know that it's coming, that change of speed is coming, Ben. I think people that say it's ruining basketball don't know basketball or have never played it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that point, and I get it. People don't want to watch free throw shooting contests. Fair enough. No one really wants to see that, but sure, Trey Young draws a couple of extra fouls from being sneaky, the same way DeMar DeRozan does, same way James Harden does, and people trash on James Harden, but same way LeBron does when he drives his shoulder in, the same way any superstar level player, even though I don't think Trey Young's at that level yet, but any superstar level player does. But watching the guy play, I look at him as one of the most exciting players to watch in basketball, especially outside of those foul drawing plays. He's so shifty. He just hits these deep, long threes that I know people think aren't that high percentage shots, and fair enough, they're not. But when you're making them, when you're watching that play, it just demoralizes the other team's morale on the defensive end and offense. It's the game within the game, and I think Trey Young plays that very well. Obviously, he's been on some poor teams, so people look at him as, good player, bad team, high stats, league cancer, all that sort of stuff. But even this year, I think they've came back with essentially the same roster. Obviously, Hunter's improved. Cam Reddish is looking a little bit better. John Collins is there. But the players that they brought in those expectations of being a better team this season, Gallo's barely played. Rondo's barely played. Bogdanovic has been a non-factor when he's been out there on the court. So Trey Young's really come back with that same sort of roster. I guess Okongwu's in there now, and he missed the start of the season. Clint Capella's not... He was overhyped when he was playing with James Harden 24/7 regardless, so I don't think he's that big of an asset to the roster. I think Trey Young has gotten that... He came in last year, became an all-star starter. Yes, he shouldn't have been an all-star starter, and then people kind of looked at him, started trashing on him for all these sorts of things that are brought up, but I think he's an exciting player. I think he's a strong player. I think he's a positive for the team.
Yeah, he's exciting. I think you also got to give credit to who's been playing really well for them. DeAndre Hunter has been playing really well for them.
He improved.
And then obviously John Collins. So they have a fun young core. But we are the Raptors Digest podcast. Just to recap what we've talked about, probably wrap it up here soon enough, Ben. I'm going to say this because we are a little bit delayed. I would like to hear what everybody thinks the Raptors are going to finish seed-wise. 1 through, how many? 15? How many is in each? 15, obviously. 1 through 15, where are the Raptors finishing? We'll sound off on that, but I want to see what everybody's saying to compare. I'll give you a second to say it before we influence your decision. But to recap, Masai Ujiri, he's getting maybe poached over to the Washington Wizards. We both say not going to happen. Drummond, we obviously want to make a move for a center. I think that that's a glaring shortfall of the Raptors. We expect that the Raptors will probably be in the playoffs, but they're not going to make a deep push unless they have a better consistency from their front court, whether it comes from Boucher or making a move. So that's what we talked about. And then other trade situations. And then liking. If you're in this,
hit that
Ben,
section, folks. Hit that
Get into the like section.
We need a shirt that says hit that like section because that's where we want you guys to hit. But I'm seeing a lot of stuff between the range of anywhere from 10 to 4 Riker. I haven't seen much before ahead of that, so
average is 7-8, I think.
Yeah, 7-8. It's hidden. That's probably the mean. I see 1-3 there from Geo Epic Gamer, so shout out there. The like section. People are shouting out the like section. But yeah.
That's
people,
my buddy Andrew. Shout out.
No one's really said, okay, we got 1-1. I've been on the boat. I haven't jumped off. You can look back through the podcast, even when we're playing bad. I've held true. I think we're stealing that second seed.
Evan Joseph said it too.
What?
Evan Joseph, he said LOL too. I think he knew that you were about to say that, Ben.
Yeah, so that's the spot that I want to be at. So I think we can get there. The East is bad right now. Yes, the Nets are up there. Yes, the Sixers are up there. But we had an atrocious start to the season. And I think we're only 3 games out of the 4th seed, out of the 5th seed. I don't have the standings pulled up right here just yet.
Let me confirm.
Riker's going to pull that up now, but I think this team, especially if we sort of bounce back. Ooh, and we also got some news. Danny's dropping some stuff in the chat, but Bebe Nogueira's, before we dive back into this, Bebe's retired, officially retired from basketball, Riker, apparently.
Wow. It doesn't deserve much more consideration than that. He was obviously...
Do not be hating on my guy, Bebe Nogueira. That guy is the GOAT. That guy...
It seems like it's pretty hard to botch being a fan favorite if you're a big man on the Toronto Raptors. Bebe Nogueira, Bismack Biyombo, Moose, Greg Monroe, Jonas Valanciunas, Amir Johnson, Ed Davis, Andrea Bargnani, a rich history of guys that are just fan favorites. Ben, Bebe is certainly in that category. He just didn't have a lot to offer in terms of skill in the NBA, so it makes sense to me that he just bounced around a little bit and then sort of...
He had skill, man. I am in full belief if that guy was given a proper opportunity, wasn't thrown in after not playing in 2 months, thrown into a playoff series after not playing like Dwayne Casey did to him, and he'd be in the league. He could have a successful career. He was a good passer. He had all that length, and I don't know. I love Bebe. It's unfortunate to see his career not really take off. He had the face tats, the afro, just a quality guy. He seemed like a very jovial person. So, just shout out to Bebe.
Confirmed 3 games back from Boston somehow. Boston is 11-8.
Yep.
Raptors are of course 9-12.
Are they the 4th seed?
Difference is only they're the 4th seed.
Yeah.
So 3 games is the difference between us. I said at the beginning of the year 6. I don't think currently in 7 and 8 is Cleveland and Charlotte. Anybody that thinks the Raptors are finishing below Cleveland and Charlotte are losing their mind. Now you could make the argument that Miami is better than what they've performed so far because they're sitting at 7 and 13. They'll probably sneak back into the playoff picture once they figure it out with Jimmy Butler, etc. Mm-hmm. But Ben, you know, I see that even 6 at Atlanta, 5 with Indiana, those are defeatable teams in terms of the overall record. I know Indiana is looking all right to start the season, but they're all within reach. I would not be surprised if the Raptors kind of coast into 5th place.
Yeah, no, I'm in a complete agreement with that. And I think we go higher. Man. We started off this year, think about it, okay? We had to go from a team that was built around 2 centers for the past, since the Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan era. We had, Jonas, Amir in the front court, then we had Jonas and Biz, then we had Jonas and Serge, and then Mark and Serge. We had that dual center lineup for the longest of time in this Raptors sort of tenure, and then we had to come into the season sort of figure out a completely new style of playing with a lot of new guys, and a lot of people that are coming to their own at this point, paired with the fact this Toronto Raptors team is playing in a foreign country, so to speak, but they're away from home. Every game is a road game. For half of this season, all of our home games were away games because the Tampa fans were out here booing the Toronto Raptors. They were cheering for the Celtics. They were cheering for the Knicks. They were cheering for all these teams that weren't the Raptors. So that was a mess having those fans in there. Raptors had to deal with all of that nonsense. They had to deal with, just moving during a pandemic, especially to a place like Florida, would be pretty intense, would be a pretty tough transition for anyone. So you factor all that in, you factor in all of the roster turmoil. Makes sense why we had a poor start to this year. Looks like Siakam's gotten in a lot better shape from where he was in November. Same with Norman Powell. Fitness-wise and the jump shot for Norman Powell at least. I think Siakam's had a better approach to these games going forward. The Raptors always find a way to be one of those top 4 seeds and usually second or first. So I'm holding out hope. The Nets, yes, they're the Nets. They're great. They're a superstar team, but they sort of play down to their competition. They're 4-6 against teams under 500. So I don't know if that really will translate to a bunch of regular season wins, especially when they start taking games off. The Sixers, I don't know if that's sustainable. We've seen them have stretches where they're really good at times, but they're 1, injury prone, and 2, just go through slumps and great win stretches. That's just the way their team is built. I think the Bucks will be better. I think they'll continue to improve. I think they're the 1st seed right now. Anyways, are they, Riker, or is it the Sixers?
No, I don't think that the Philadelphia 76ers have surpassed all expectations this year. They're the strong number 1 right now.
Yeah, so I think the Bucks will still be in play, but I don't know. I just think the Raptors can do it. I think the Raptors had a lot of stuff to deal with at the start of the year, and people trash me for my optimism, but I'm still holding out hope.
Yeah, you're too optimistic for me. You've been screaming second seed since way before the season even started. I've been saying sixth seed. I might even revise that to say fifth makes more sense. And who would be most likely to finish fourth? It's probably going to be Boston, and that'd be a really crazy first round. I think we'd rather avoid. Let me say this, Ben. If the season were to end right now, and obviously the Raptors would be out of the playoffs, but let's just
Play-in tournament, bro.
That the Raptors
Play-in tournament.
Play-in tournament.
Yep.
Who would be the worst team to face in the first round?
Am I scared of the Sixers? No. I'm not afraid of the Sixers. Even if they're real good. I just feel like we have the mental advantage over that team. I feel like we'd get the W, especially the fact they don't have Jimmy Butler, JJ Redick. I am impressed with the moves they've made. Seth Curry coming in, getting some shooting around Embiid, Danny Green, all those guys. So, am I afraid of the Sixers? No, I think that would be a good matchup for us. The Celtics, yes, they beat us in the playoffs last year, but again, we really lost.
Pascal Siakam played so bad.
Yeah.
But you remember, Serge was a 17-point per game guy against the Celtics. I don't know who's going to pick up that scoring load from him.
Yeah. No, it's a... Serge Ibaka played really well in that series, but I look at the Celtics again, man, and I'm like, we could beat that team. We can beat that team. We lost that series ourselves. They didn't beat us. It wasn't like Tatum took over games and was a monster for them last year, and he was unstoppable. Yes, he showed that promise against LeBron James his rookie season, but I really didn't see that in the playoffs against us or the Heat. Jaylen Brown was obviously looking really nice this season, but I just feel like we figure it out against the Celtics. And again, we didn't really use Serge Ibaka or Marc Gasol down the stretch of those games, so we ran the OG at center lineup, so I think they're beatable. The Nets are obviously the team people are pegging to win the Eastern Conference. Their defense is trash right now, but I think they'll amp it up when the playoff time comes around. But I have an inherent bias against the Nets to believe that they will lose every game this season and the playoffs, so I think it's doable even if they get Drummond, but that's probably the team that's the worst matchup right now.
The Nets, not the Bucks.
The Bucks, again, we beat the Bucks. We beat Giannis twice, right? They're the same team. They run the same offense. They lost the Heat last season. I don't know. I'm not a big buyer. I don't buy a lot of stock into the Miami Heat right now, or even last season. I think they had a good matchup against the Bucks, and Mike Budenholzer just does the same thing that Dwayne Casey did all of those years, just running the same system in the playoffs. So, again, they're probably the most talented team outside of the Nets, but I'm not worried about them.
Yeah, neither am I. Anyways, we're probably getting close to it now. I'd say I think we're inching towards an hour. I don't have a timestamp on this. I have no idea how long. I kind of marked 9:30 as a 54. Well, if there's anything else you want to talk about, then certainly bring it up now, but I'm comfortable to wrap it up. It's been interesting. I think we've engaged the comment section a little bit better than our previous live videos. Let us know if you want to participate in more of these. They're a bit of fun for us to do. Ben and I can ramble for hours about Raptors basketball, and so even to condense it to 20 minutes in our normal videos, I feel like we cut a lot of things off, a lot of talking points. So these ones are fun to just chat ball.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. People aren't liking the optimistic takes, but I guarantee it. If we beat the Nets on Friday, the happy Raptors fans will be bouncing back in the comment section. We got two waves of fans that love to make stuff, but I don't know. We really appreciate everyone coming out, commenting, all that sort of stuff, and people are saying good show. They like the content, so yeah, we'll try and get this thing going weekly. Try and get more of these lives. Obviously, we started off with doing this sort of format with the videos as a live segment. Learned how to use OBS, so now we just got used to making that videos, and now I think we get more lives going. Give a few shout outs to people that stayed the whole stream. Shout out Fred Kieran. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Been subbed since we had 2K subs, so shout out Fred. We need to tank. That's silliness. We do need Bruno. We did get a lot of people saying we need Bruno back, Riker. Are you in agreement or not?
No, we don't need Bruno back. But
I
you
think
got to
it'd be
just go up a
nice.
little bit higher. Lumpy Rex 007. Shout out Fatman 5499. Leyland Judson. Danny, obviously. Part of the Raptors team.
Yeah.
DE. Fred Kyran. Chris Hoffmeyer. Shout out to
Also,
everyone. And everyone in the
question.
Instagram DMs.
Yeah, question out to the people too that are still in this live stream chat. We're thinking about doing lives, whether it's a halftime show, game reactions, live reactions to games. Would you rather see those on YouTube with this format here, or over on our Instagram with sort of the very informal formats where we just sort of walk around and super ramble? Let's hear back, get some feedback on that before we end up.
Yeah.
Fifth seed.
I'll fill in our time with a little bit of commentary, Ben. So I don't know how I want to say this. So I've had comments about my lighting, which is an issue of mine. And the thing is, the light in my face is extremely bright, but then the light behind me is dull. And so it makes it extra overcast. That's all that I wanted to say there. That's my filler. So let's hear what the comment section has to say.
It's looking like YouTube. It's looking like they want live games on YouTube. Got the stuff. Yeah, it's looking like YouTube is the route. That's probably gonna be a weird watch for people that aren't looking at the chat, but yeah, that's pretty key, pretty interesting stuff. And also want to make a point too, because we've had some random haters. People enjoyed the fact that I messed up the intro segments on our videos, because I cut to Ryker to start, then I usually cut back to the space. The hotkeys have died in this pod, so that's why we've had this sort of frame for most of this live stream. But when I cut back, it's not me sort of playing it as a joke. I think people are thinking I do it on purpose. I click the intro like 30 seconds into our video on purpose. It's because you have to shut it off once you come back, and I just forget to do it because we're podcasting. I'm producing this live, so to stop the flaming when people think I'm personally doing it as some meme. It's it's tough producing and recording a live in one shot. So don't be hating there, but yeah, no, you guys are the best to make this far. We appreciate all the feedback. We love. I guess we'll send it off with this one. Someone said, Ryker, Ben is the sun, Ryker is the moon.
Thank you. Thank you. We
Perfect
need that
combination.
positivity. So we'll see how many this gets. Definitely like the video. I'm going to plug that one more time. I think that there's going to be, you said it, we'll finish off on this. There's going to be a lot of happy, fair weather fans of the Raptors come out of the woodworks if the Raptors win on Friday against the Nets. It's an exciting weekend. We have the Nets on Friday. We have Fight Night, Alistair Overeem versus Alexei Volkanov or something in UFC. And then Sunday, we got Super Bowl Sunday. A lot of sports going on this weekend. We're going to see a lot of fans come out, but it's got to start with that win, Ben. Worst defense in NBA history. Pascal Siakam's just got a feast inside. Don't worry about Kevin Durant shot blocking or any of that foolishness, because Cabral Luau is not going to come out of the weak side help and block you on your, pump fake attempts. You just got to be strong in the paint. The Raptors can get that win, man.
We're getting that dub. I have full confidence anytime we play the Nets, whether they're the 0-82 Nets or the super team that they are right now. So it is what it is. Check out the Twitter, the Instagram, all that cool stuff. As we brought up many of times, check out the website. Articles pop in there left, right, and center. We have people applying to be writers seemingly every day now, so we appreciate everyone's interest in that and checking out the articles. So definitely a lot of work's gone into that, especially from our new writers. So give them feedback, leave comments on the articles over there. Will be greatly appreciated. And yeah, any final words, Ryker?
Final words. Got to sign it off with a classic. Cheers.